Child, you are not the father moments on paternity court.
Are not his father.
At the heat of the moment,
Right.
guys say anything having sex, Your Honor. Anything.
Note to self.
This mommy here is persistent that Mr. Hudson is the only possible father of her child, even though she had confessed that she cheated on him. However, when paternity doubt hits once, there's no going back.
Well, Your Honor, I was led to believe that I was Jacory's father because at the time that we were living together is the time that she became pregnant with the child. We were together for approximately about 5 years, Your Honor.
Okay.
So, let's dive into how this infidelity ride began. It turns out the mommy cheated on her man out of spite. Let's face it, no one wants to be taken for granted. Thus, revenge sex. The only down part is that now there's a baby out of such a wild night.
We had an argument, and that's when she came and she was telling me how I might not be the father and she had done these things. I paid no attention to them because I am the father. I'm supposed to be the father. I'm here.
He was cheating on me back then, so that's the reason why I did what I did. I said he might not be the father, but I know he's the father of Jacory Hudson.
It appears the baby mama is operating on feelings rather than truly knowing that he's the baby daddy. The plaintiff was sure the connection her child shared with the alleged father was paternity proof enough. That's your testimony? His being there was his good grace, and it was not proof he was the baby daddy.
You admitted you slept with someone else.
Yes, Your Honor.
Even in my time of deception, still stood there and took care of him.
Are you talking about the time of deception, meaning when you were deceiving her or she was deceiving you?
When I was deceived by her, Your Honor, and
When
she
you
had came
were.
out and gave me the assumptions that she had done what she had done.
Up next, let's get the other guy in the courtroom. Well, Mr. Davis started when he found out about baby Jacory via Facebook. Nonetheless, since mommy needed clarification about the timeline, the other potential father also wanted a paternity test.
I didn't know that she was pregnant at all until I looked on Facebook one day. Like a year later, I see a picture of her son, and immediately I think her son looks like my nephew. About a year after that, she came to me. She's like, "Oh, well, can you tell me the times that we had sex?" And I'm like, "Okay." So I gave her a ballpark.
So, both men are up for playing the dad part, but their doubts were coming in the way. And because of this, poor baby Jacory was suffering in this limbo. This is a really tough one, guys. Time to find the truth.
Mr. Hudson, you are not his father. Mr. Davis, you are not his father.
Promiscuity and manipulation of his girlfriend have driven Mr. Lewis to the edge of a paternity dilemma, as he refuses to believe anything coming out of the plaintiff's mouth. The only thing convincing enough for him is DNA proof.
Me and Stanley planned my son.
We did not plan on baby.
Yes, we did. We've also never used a condom. We talked about having a baby numerous times. This is all new to me on why he's not claiming my son.
I'm not denying a baby. She just always lying. She's known the street to be a hoe.
Up next, there's mayhem in the court, as Mr. Lewis started calling names, not maintaining the decorum of the court. It's not your backyard, sir, and we know that when such notes are hit, it raises Judge Lake's schooling antennae.
Did I just say use respectful language in the court?
I'm sorry, but that's just what it is.
No. It's not what it's gonna be in this courtroom.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you look crazy because you're the one sleeping with her anyway, so you're not making a point. You're only making yourself look dumber.
It appeared the man was desperate to wash his hands of the child. Reality check, you've brought this upon yourself by ditching the protection. And what made things more shocking was that Mr. Lewis had convinced his girlfriend to bear him a child. But now, he was standing in the court denying it all.
A baby with her while y'all were having sex, Mr. Lewis?
Never said that we was gonna have a baby. Not the first night that we reconnect when we have sex.
But did you ever say it?
At the heat of the moment,
Right.
guys say anything having sex, Your Honor. Anything.
Note to self.
So guys, it's been established that people would say anything they want. I mean, take this for instance. Both partners had played their fair share of cheating each other, and who was paying for it? An innocent child. It's like, how wolfish can you get?
When I said I was pregnant.
I never thought.
Yes, you did, because you kept saying you ain't pregnant, you ain't pregnant. Yes, you did. Correction. Yes, you did.
No, I
and
never
then
thought you
the day I had my son, I did not call him. He knew the day that I was having my son because I had to get a cesarean operation.
She's lying.
Here comes another twist. The compulsive lying of baby mama wasn't the only reason that made Mr. Lewis deny the child. It turns out that the defendant had lost the ability to father a child because of an accident. And the cherry on top was that Miss Lester was engaged to another man for almost 10 years, while mommy was claiming that her part-time lover was the father.
To the where the doctors had pumped so much medicine in my body, and they told me that I couldn't have kids at all.
And since that time, you haven't fathered any other children.
No.
That's why you feel Raiden is not your biological child.
He doesn't even look like me. Just because he's light-skinned, he
Yes.
has none of my features.
Buckle up, people. Things are about to take an even crazier turn. At this point, it's impossible to tell who is telling the truth. But one thing is sure, this drama has taken up all my sanity. Luckily, Judge Lake knows how to set such records straight.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Lewis, you are not the father.
Following the cheating parade, we have baby mama suing baby daddy for half the child rearing expenses, while Mr. Lewis is playing the same old jingle. Baby mama's not mine, yada yada yada, I don't want anything to do with the child. Ugh, we know that song and dance. With that said, let the trial begin.
And this is a picture of Mr. Hafner's grandfather, which is your father.
Yes, Your Honor.
On the right. And you say you truly see a resemblance.
Yes, Your Honor. A scale from 1 to 10, that's an 11. And you compare our two pictures, and that's maybe a 2.
It's very interesting as I listen to this family testify, this young man.
Let's introduce another guy in this mix. Yeah, there were 2 guys, and it's no news that that's how you end up in paternity court. However, Miss Kelso had made her pick. The woman believed that Mr. Davis was the baby daddy because of the bond they both shared.
These people who have cared so much that they don't know the truth, and we're here to find out the truth. My son deserves to have a father in his life, regardless of the financial expenses. He deserves to have somebody who will play with him, who will take him to the park,
that will love
who will
him.
sit there and feed him when he needs food, take care of him, love him unconditionally. That's what my son needs.
However, the other baby daddy, Mr. Hafner, wasn't ready to back down that easily either. The guy came all prepared. His evidence even had convinced that he was the father because baby Connor was the spitting image of him. But hey, we've seen this show long enough to know that looks can be deceiving.
Do you see more of a resemblance between your child and one of these men?
His nose looks like Jamal's, his eyes look like mine, his lips look like Richard, his hair looks like Jamal's. I just can't tell. They're so similar in different ways.
You are truly confused. I can see it on your face.
I'm just absolutely confused, and I don't know.
You really are confused, and I can see it.
After all of that, it was time to pop out that conception calendar, and it showed that the plaintiff was going to and fro between both men at the same time, which made pointing to the father without a result very hard. If you ask me, Mommy's testimony seems more emotional than rational. Well, the heart wants what it wants, I guess.
I'm almost certain that it's Mr. Davis's.
Well, I wish it was a matter of preference. Are you ready for the results?
Absolutely.
I cannot rule on your lawsuit until we know if, in fact, Mr. Davis is your child's biological father, because you understand that if he is not, he has no legal obligation.
So, people, we know when infidelity gets established, there's no point in asking the same things again and again. This surely was an emotional ride, but it's finally reached its end. It was about time to get that envelope.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Hafner, you are not the father. You are the father.
New fears were unlocked, as Mr. Brown was recently informed that he has been living a lie that he fathered baby Colby. Even though he had full custody, He was afraid that this revelation would separate him from his son, and his assumptions were right, because Miss Stewart wanted to get her ex back.
You know for certain that he's not Mr. Brown's biological child.
I'm 100% sure he's not the father.
And you understand what's at stake, though. You understand that Mr. Brown is saying he has a healthy, happy upbringing in his
I know
home.
he's with me, and when he's gonna be happy and healthy, I can provide that for my son.
So when the judge asked the plaintiff what was at stake for him, Mr. Brown told the court he could risk losing the kid, as his whole family took him as their family. And if this mother takes him away, it will ruin his life. And he can provide for the kid more efficiently than the mother.
Everything's at stake, Your Honor. My whole entire family knows him as theirs. I have 2 grandmas that have Alzheimer's that know him as their grandsons. My 14-year-old son knows him as his little brother. My house is a more stable home for him. It's a place where he's taken care of, and I know it's the better thing for him.
However, when the judge asked the alleged daddy how he found out about him not being the father, Mr. Brown told the court that after separating from him, Mommy left the kid at his place trying to move out. But instead of coming to pick Colby up herself, Miss Stewart called the cops on him.
So what happened when she brought the police to your house?
By that time, I'd already talked to 1 district attorney and 3 police officers who told me the same thing that I already knew, that by law, I did not have to give him back due to the fact I signed the paternity affidavit. I was on the birth certificate. The cop that she brought was probably the only one on the force she could get to side with her.
So the guy was even on the birth certificate. I mean, why wouldn't he be playing the daddy part this long? But Miss Stewart was not ready to let go that easily. She was in paternity court to take the child with her once and for all.
So therefore, I asked the officer to please leave my residence because there was nothing he could do.
You were trying to take my son away from me, and that's what you did, exactly. Rip my son from my life, from my home.
Baby mama was so addicted to the court that she knew long enough that the plaintiff was not the father and kept putting off the truth so she could be with him. But since they were separated, there was no reason to hide anything.
Because at that time, yes, I went to another friend to comfort me. Because at this time, Mr. Brown and I had decided to take a break. So I went in that time and talked to a friend like I always do. Comforting friends, and one thing led to another, and my son was conceived.
This was a paternity mess. However, the judge was hung up on the question of whether Miss Stewart was sure about the other guy being the father, or if she was doing all of this out of spite. Because we get that a lot in this reality court, now don't we? And this is how the defendant responded to the question.
When he decided to take my son from me.
So you broke up, and then he wanted custody.
Yes.
So if you had stayed in the relationship, would you have ever told him that this may not be his child?
No, I believe that he is not the father of my son. I'm 1,000% sure. And I know the truth needed to come out. It should have been sooner than later, but it came out.
After that revelation, the judge moved to Mr. Brown to ask how he took the revelation, as I'm sure he would have never seen this coming. And the plaintiff testified the same. In Mr. Brown's exact words, he was dumbfounded. Let's be fair, who wouldn't be?
You first got the news from her and she dropped this bomb on you. Did you say, I want a DNA test? Did you think to get a DNA test?
Yes, Your Honor. I called DHS and talked to them, and they informed me that I needed to call Child Support Recovery because that's who does the DNA test in the state that we live in.
Colby's only chance at fatherhood was the guy at the podium. If he steps down, Mommy will have no one to turn to. Nonetheless, only the result can determine how things will go down.
Mr. Brown, you are not the father.
I told you. All right.
High school love, all sunshine and rainbows. Nope, it's more like you're the daddy and no, I'm not. Okay, I got a little carried away with that one. But so did these young people, because their coziness produced a baby.
I grew up without a father, so I don't want my kid to grow up how I did.
And so, Mr. Brown, Ms. Hawthorne says you acting like a deadbeat. Why?
Your Honor, this baby isn't mine. I desperately believe that she's emotionally attached to me and she desperately wants to have a family with me.
It's not true because me and DeAndre, we were in a relationship. We were high school sweethearts.
It seems that Mr. Brown was not just deadbeat, but also a compulsive cheater. And what made things worse was that he had no shame about his game. FYI, his excuse of cheating wasn't doing any good either. No, we're not exaggerating. Watch for yourself.
Well, Your Honor, we was living in two different parts of the city. So she was living in the suburbs and I was living in the city. At the first beginning of the relationship.
What does that have to do with cheating?
That's true.
A year of online dating led us to this moment in this paternity court. Quick note, all you parents out there, keep your eyes on the children playing online. Just a public service message from Dr. Phil. But anyway, coming back to the matter at hand, baby daddy claims to have done the deed only once in 2014, denying baby mama's claims of going back and forth.
You met online, did you meet up?
A year.
So it was a year?
Yes.
And then you say you lost your virginity to this man who you met online?
Yes.
Note to all the parents in the gallery whose high school kids are playing online.
Yeah.
Okay?
Up next, the guy's girlfriend was introduced into this crazy equation. And taking it a step further, it got revealed that the baby daddy in question had slept with his girlfriend prior to sleeping with baby mama. Wow, that's brutal! Does he have no moral compass?
Or I came to her, I had sex with my girlfriend.
What? Okay.
You had sex with your girlfriend before you came to see Miss Hawthorne?
Correct, Your Honor.
This doesn't make any kind of sense.
And I missed my period in January.
After this, the judge called in the plaintiff's mother, who'd been playing the father of the child. Grandma demanded that it was about time that the defendant stepped up to take care of his child, as every child deserves a loving, doting father. And that's the part where we conclude the confusion with the result.
Mr. Brown, you are not the father.